Royal marriages throughout history were rarely simple matters of affection. They functioned as intricate, high-level treaties of union of flesh that guaranteed alliances of steel, territory, and gold. Before the 18th century, the notion of romantic choice was an anomaly, not a rule. These dynastic arrangements were strategic tools used to initiate, reinforce, or guarantee peace, or to secure a strategic position against a third dynasty. The very existence of monarchical power often hinged on the careful selection of consorts who brought political advantage and secured the line of succession. The enduring power of these alliances is captured perfectly by the cynical yet pragmatic motto of the Habsburg dynasty, which for centuries ruled much of Central Europe: be happy, Austria, and marry. This sentiment emphasized that the Habsburgs relied more heavily on strategic dynastic unions than on military conquest to expand and maintain their vast realm. A single diplomatic blunder or a private, personal change of heart in a potential match could therefore unravel decades of carefully constructed geopolitical planning, fundamentally shifting the map of Europe. Dynastic intermarriage, prevalent from the medieval era until the outbreak of the First World War, was a critical component of foreign policy. The object was always the same: national and international arrangements, reducing threats or procuring legal claims to foreign thrones through inheritance. The sheer weight of this kinship network became painfully evident by 1914. Queen Victoria's family in particular exerted vast influence across the continent, creating an extensive web of cousins throughout the European courts. The fact that three of the major warring nations, Britain, Germany and Russia, were ruled by two of her grandsons and a grandson-in-law demonstrates the scale and unintended complexity of these dynastic bonds. This dense familial linkage, ironically forged to promote peace and mutual stability, contributed to the catastrophic scale of World War I. When conflict erupted, monarchs were forced into a pragmatic choice: betray their country or fight their own cousins. The system, designed to stabilise Europe through relatedness, ultimately made the resulting war deeply personal, globalised the conflict, and guaranteed a broad inferno rather than localised warfare. The first of our near misses involves the potential union between the future heir to the British throne, Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale, known as Eddie, and a princess of the mighty Austro-Hungarian Empire. Eddie was second in line of succession, and his family sought a stable, prestigious match for him. The implied bride was Archduchess Marie Valerie of Austria, the youngest daughter of Emperor Franz Joseph. By the late 19th century, Austria and Hungary was a vast multinational constitutional monarchy established by the 1867 Compromise. Despite its size, the dual monarchy was politically fragile, plagued by internal conflicts among its numerous nationalities. A marriage alliance with the powerful British royal house, the world's foremost maritime power, would have been a monumental political coup for Vienna, offering unparalleled diplomatic prestige and implicitly tying London to the Central Powers' sphere of influence. The weight of dynastic duty always superseded personal desire. For the British heir, courtship was governed by non-negotiable criteria centred on lineage, religion, and the ability to produce a viable heir. The key obstacle to the Anglo-Habsburg union was constitutional law, specifically religious differences. The 1701 Act of Settlement mandated that the monarch and their spouse must be Protestant, making any Catholic consort, such as Archduchess Marie Valerie, illegal. Their conversion to Anglicanism would have been considered politically impossible, compromising the dignity of the Habsburg court and its deep-rooted continental Catholic tradition. This legal rigidity restricted the British marriage pool almost exclusively to Protestant German houses, maintaining a disproportionate German influence within the British monarchy. Had this unprecedented union occurred, requiring an extraordinary constitutional amendment to overcome the religious veto, the political consequences would have been revolutionary. A direct, public dynastic link between London and Vienna would have forced Britain to shift its traditional foreign policy stance dramatically. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in 1914, the British royal family would have viewed the event as an attack on a closely related dynasty. This dynastic relationship would make British entry into World War I on the side of Austria against Russia and Serbia highly plausible, and fundamentally inverting the actual alignment of the great powers and preventing the formation of the historical Triple Entente. The second major near miss involves two first cousins, Prince George of Wales, later King George V, and Princess Marie of Edinburgh, later the formidable Queen Marie of Romania. George, destined for naval service, grew close to Marie, known as Missy, while serving under her father in Malta, and fell deeply in love, proposing marriage. The strategic logic for the match was sound. Queen Victoria and both fathers approved, seeing it as strengthening the internal unity of the British royal family. However, the shadow of family duty and political anxiety loomed large. The Victorian court often forced marriages that bound Europe together, leading to significant personal costs for the participants, such as Princess Victoria, who married Frederick of Prussia and suffered isolation for her liberal views. Despite the prince's affections and the approval of the sovereigns, the proposed union was decisively scuttled by the two powerful mothers, who allowed personal animosities and nationalist feelings to overrule dynastic logic. George's mother, Alexandra, intensely disliked the pervasive German sentiment within her in-laws' family, driven by her Danish nationalist feelings following the Schleswig-Holstein Wars. Marie's mother, Grand Duchess Maria Alexandrovna of Russia, carried a deep antipathy towards the British court. As the cherished daughter of Tsar Alexander II, she resented being subordinate to her British in-laws in the court hierarchy and generally despised anything British. The failure of the George and Marie match demonstrates that in late Victorian era, the personal animosities and nationalist loyalties of the royal mothers sometimes wielded a more decisive veto and power than the sobering calculations of the ruling fathers. Marie's mother abruptly arranged marriage to Prince Ferdinand of Romania. If Prince George had married his cousin Marie, the Queen Consort of Britain, starting in 1910, would have been half Russian and inherited her mother's strong anti-German sentiment. The historical Queen Marie of Romania successfully urged her husband Ferdinand to ally with the Triple Entente, the anti-German side, during World War I. Had she been Queen Consort of Britain, her voice within the palace would have provided a potent personal push for British commitment to the Entente, Russia, France and Britain in 1914. This strong internal pro-Russian and anti-German influence might have significantly accelerated Britain's decision-making process in the tense days of July 1914. Our third case, set in the early 18th century, illustrates the ruthless expediency of dynastic politics when faced with a succession crisis. The betrothal occurred following the War of the Quadruple Alliance, as the French and Spanish Bourbon houses attempted to solidify a fragile peace. In 1721, King Louis XV of France, then 11 years old, was formally engaged to his first cousin, Infanta Mariana Victoria of Spain, who was only 3 years old. The Infanta was moved to the Palais de Louvre to be raised as the future Queen of France. Royal courtship was rigidly governed by the imperative of lineage and parity, which required marrying within rank to maintain the status and purity of the ruling house. However, the absolute overriding priority was securing the direct male line of succession. By 1725, Louis XV had reached the age of 15. The French government was gripped by profound anxiety over the lack of a direct male heir, given recent succession scares. The ambitious Prime Minister Louis-Henri Duc de Bourbon recognised that the Infanta, then aged 7, could not immediately fulfill the paramount duty of securing the dynasty. Acting decisively, the Duke de Bourbon unilaterally cancelled the engagement, seen as an unprecedented diplomatic affront. Mariana Victoria was brutally stripped of her position and sent back to Spain. The French court's willingness to jeopardise a carefully negotiated international treaty and risk war with Spain demonstrates the absolute overriding priority of securing the direct male line of succession in Bourbon France. The Infanta's youth provided a politically convenient excuse for the Prime Minister to ensure the King married the childbearing Maria Leszczyńska later that year, who subsequently offered the long-awaited heir in 1729. Had Louis XV adhered to the 1721 treaty and waited to marry Mariana Victoria, France would have secured its key Bourbon alliance, building crucial trust with Madrid. The resulting alignment would have established a permanent, high-trust relationship between the two Bourbon crowns. With Spain as a reliable partner, French diplomatic and military efforts would have been profoundly strengthened, particularly in the escalating colonial wars against Britain. The united Bourbon front that could have shifted the outcome of conflicts like the 7 Years' War, potentially preventing France's territorial losses and ensuring greater French naval power globally. Mariana Victoria, who later proved to be a highly capable Queen of Portugal, would have produced a Dauphin for France, fundamentally altering the lineage of the future French Bourbon rulers. These historical near misses underscores the immense and often contradictory pressures faced by royalty. While the ultimate authority in a dynastic state resided with the succession, the operational power sometimes rested with diplomatic expediency or profound personal prejudices. Pressure for a suitable match defined by lineage and public perception continues to affect modern royal unions. Even in the 20th century, the constitutional fallout from such decisions was catastrophic, exemplified by King Edward VIII's abdication in 1936 to marry the twice-divorced American Wallis Simpson. This event demonstrated that the historical requirements for social and legal suitability remained powerful enough to plunge the monarchy into chaos, forcing the king to prioritise personal desire over the institutional demands of the crown. The monarchy has since learned from the severe political and genetic pitfalls of strictly limited intermarriage. The shift in modern times toward marrying commoners, such as Prince William and Prince Harry marrying non-royal partners, represents a fundamental break from the tradition of enforced dynastic intermarriage. This broader selection pool minimises the risk of repeating the disastrous genetic complications that arose from centuries of maintaining dynastic purity. More crucially, selecting consorts based on emotional compatibility rather than foreign policy ensures that the monarchy remains domestically stable and mitigates the risk of repeating the kind of political entanglements where cousins were forced to fight cousins that characterised the start of World War I. The stories of the almost royal romances stand as powerful evidence of the fragile and contingent nature of history. They reveal that even amidst the rigidity of protocol and the mandates of empire, individual choices, be they based on love, duty, or diplomatic haste, can derail the most carefully laid plans and certainly shape the destinies of nations.